The past 7 years living at my mom's house, I've been through a lot of good times and a lot of really terrible times where I was super depressed and I couldn't even find a reason to keep living, But here I am. And so I thought I'd make a video about the topic of what's the point? Because I think this is a question that most commonly comes up for people when they're super depressed. And what happens is that you start asking this question and it starts applying to like everything in your life. For example, you wake up in the morning and you're like, ugh, like what's the point of getting out of bed? And then you're like, what's the point of eating healthy? What's the point of exercising? What's what's the point of going on a hike, etc. And so this question starts being applied not only to like your present existence, but to the universe as a whole, and also like forward in time, so that all of your goals also start to feel meaningless, and then you're really in trouble. But what I've kind of learned from being through depression many, many, many times is, I mean, the most important thing is that there's always going to be a cycle, and it may take a while, but you'll get back to feeling better. And the second thing related to that is that you can't, when you're depressed, really logically figure your way out of depression. And like when you're thinking about goals that feel meaningless, you can't sort of like put it into a formula and look at, okay, like because of X, Y, and Z, then this has meaning and therefore I should feel something. Like even if it's completely logical, you could look at something that was super meaningful to you before and then feel absolutely nothing. And the reason for this is that life is not linear. It doesn't actually work, in a step-by-step process. It's a circle. It just goes around and around and around, and that's how you feel good. And like, for example, if you're feeling depressed and you're thinking about these goals that you have in the future, like for me, the van, is what I'm building right now. But when I'm depressed, I think about like, okay, well, I'm gonna get the van built, and then I'm still gonna feel depressed, or maybe I'll feel happy for a little bit of time, but then I'll feel depressed again. Then I'm like, okay, well, I'll have the van, but then I can travel, and then I'll feel happy. And then I'm like, well, that also feels meaningless because I've watched all these travel videos. I've traveled to many places, and they're not going to be any different. They're just going to be the exact same that they always are. But the key to depression, honestly, is realizing that depression is lying to you, because you're in a low energy state. It's kind of like having a camera and going to all these really beautiful places and like you've got this like horrible smudge on the camera, right? So you keep taking, these snapshots everywhere you go of waterfalls and mountains and stuff like that. And then you look at it and it just looks like absolute garbage and you think, oh, like the world must be garbage, but it's like, no, it's the camera. You need to clean the lens, or maybe your battery was dead, or, maybe the sensor is fried or something like that you need to fix. So I think remembering that is always helpful when you start to feel like everything is meaningless, because there is no like logical meaning to anything, and also there is not any meaning to things. It all depends on your ability to feel, and your ability to feel comes first and foremost from your energy, which primarily comes from your diet. I mean, it can come from relationships and exercise and all that stuff, but primarily diet. And one of the most important things that I've learned over the years is the importance of not getting attached to a certain diet, because like I have been through literally every diet that I could possibly do. And it was starting to get really depressing. And then I sort of got fixated on veganism. It just seemed like it was going to be the answer for me. And it just wasn't. I continued to feel worse and worse on a vegan diet, no matter how many different ways I put it together. I tried like the pagan diet, raw vegan, high carb, low carb, high fat, getting rid of oxalates, soaking, sprouting, just literally every single possibility. And I honestly think that if I had continued to eat a vegan diet, I would be dead now. I say with all sincerity that it was a suicidal diet for me. And that's not the case for everyone. Some people, seem to thrive on it. But it's just a lesson in general in life. When things start to feel pointless, you have to look at the habits, the diet, the relationships that you have. And it's like, what things have I been doing for a long time? And what if they're just not working for me? I think you have to be willing to try other things. And when I think about purpose, the thing I always come back to is that feeling of freedom. And sometimes it's weird because, like, even knowing how important freedom is to me, sometimes I can be free and feel like I'm not free. Like it doesn't matter whether or not I have this job that I really enjoy, that, like YouTubing, that's really cool, and, that I'm not stuck at a 9 to 5 job. It's like when you get depressed, you can't even appreciate those things anymore. But then when I switched to eating a raw carnivore diet where I'm mostly eating raw bison, which, for anyone who hasn't seen that video, that's a crazy one. And I never in a million years would have thought that I would have ended up on a diet like this. But when I made that switch, like, my energy was just so much better. It was so much more consistent, and it just had felt like vegan foods both were trying to kill me in terms of inflammation, and also just couldn't maintain my energy, especially in winter. It was sort of like my metabolism is so fast that I was burning through plant foods like water. And then when I switched to like a high fat diet, eating mostly raw bison, I just felt amazing. My energy is consistent. I can work all day long and not get tired, but it's not easy to last through the periods of feeling really low, depressed, and hopeless. Like yesterday, I had a really hard day because I spent so much money on the van with getting my propane fireplace and the propane tank and all of the materials that I need, like $2,000, that I just ran out of money. I realized yesterday that my van payment is coming up tomorrow, $620, and I had $300 in my bank account. So not only am I wondering how I'm going to make my van payment, but I was wondering, how am I going to eat? Like, I have no money left for food. And so, as I've done sometimes before in life, like, I just had to ask my mom for a loan until the next time I got paid for affiliate sales for, barefoot shoes or YouTubing or something like that. And this is how you make it out of depression, and how you make it into a point in your life where you're actually successful in achieving the things that you want to achieve, is that sometimes you just have to wade through the muck. You have to do things that are humiliating, that suck, that are boring, that are frustrating, that sometimes feel inconsistent with the person you want to be, not in the sense of like doing anything wrong, but just being like a loser, being pathetic. But I've seen that the difference between people who accomplish things in life and people who don't is that the people who accomplish things just have that willingness to drag themselves through the muck long enough to succeed. Like, no matter how many times they get kicked down by life, by the system, the medical system, the government, by taxes, and just all of this bullshit, they just keep getting up and up and up and up and up. And even when you have to go through really long periods where it feels like nothing is going your way and you're just frustrated and hopeless and feels like everything's pointless, things do change. You always have to remember that. And like today, when I woke up, I just had this thought that it's spring of 2025, which means that I have gone almost 5 years now without a single doctor's appointment, with no surgeries, with no medications, no prescriptions, anything. And that's something that makes me really happy, because honestly, I've seen a lot of friends and family and just people online, even like major YouTube channels, like health gurus, having serious health problems where they had to get off of the natural healing train and, take antibiotics or get surgery, etc. And I guess I'm really thankful. I'm also really proud of myself that I've been able to stay healthy. And I still have problems, that I haven't figured out yet. But I think a milestone like this gives you confidence that you can figure out all of your problems, that you can escape the matrix, that you can feel things and live in a way that is not bullshit, that is freedom. So I'm feeling optimistic. When I woke up this morning, it was really windy. And a lot of times I feel like windy days bring sort of like a feel of change in me. I think for most of my life, I felt like I was, I don't know, an alien. And then when I feel the winds blowing, I feel like it's going to be a sort of Guardians of the Galaxy moment where the UFO comes and picks me up and takes me back to wherever the heck I belong, which sometimes feels like not Earth. But anyways, that's my thought on what the point of life is and how to return purpose into your life. But I don't know, if you have any thoughts or questions on that, let me know in the comments. And thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time. Peace.